Hello and welcome to Prospects for Pros, sponsored by Invesco QQQ, the official ETF of the NCAA. I am your host, Nate Tice. It is bowl season, the most wonderful time of the year. Those ESPN ads will always live in my brain for the rest of my life because I agreed with it back when I was young. This was the most wonderful time of the year. This time now, or this day and age, I have to worry about opt-outs, transfers. So makes it a little bit more work than just go watch these good players all the time. But to help me do that, to help me sift through some of the talent that has departed and some of the talent that's still there for some of these games is the beast himself, Dane Brugler. How are you doing today, Dane?
I'm good. I'm excited to get into some of these games, even though, yeah, you're right. They've lost some of its luster. What we thought bowl season used to be. Even it doesn't seem like that long ago. It's just funny how things evolve. The backlash from when Leonard Fournette opted out, and Christian
Oh, yeah.
McCaffrey. It wasn't that long ago, and now it just becomes kind of expected that all these
Yeah.
players are going to opt out. If a player plays, it's like, wait, he's going to be a third round pick and he's going to play. Oh my goodness! It's funny how things have evolved over the years. But yeah, so we'll do our best to keep tabs on who's playing, who's not. Be patient with us if we maybe get one wrong or here
Right.
or there. But for the most part, I think we'll be pretty much covered.
I know there's a lot of websites and some track opt-outs, some track transfers, some track who declares for the draft. And it's a lot of articles over the last 24 hours I had to read through. It's like, might opt out. And then,
Right.
okay, so I got to put an asterisk next to that one. But what we're going to do today is we're going to go over this slate of bowl games that's going to happen after Christmas. And just because that's a really packed full of bowl games and interesting bowl games. Well, interesting name title, maybe in
Mhm.
some cases, but yeah, but interesting enough. And we're going to talk about these slated games. We're going to highlight a prospect or two, guys that are playing, or as of right now, we think are playing. It's December 19th as we record this. So we will be going over each of these players. And to start, we're going to start with the bowl games on the day after Christmas, December 26th. We have three bowl games: the Quick Lane Bowl, Bowling Green versus at Minnesota, Bowling Green in Minnesota. We have Texas State and Rice in the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl. I believe that one's in Fort Worth. And then we have Kansas and ULV at the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, which is in Arizona, which is actually kind of have a lot of ties to that game in a weird way. UNLV, and then we got Kansas, which is where my uncle coaches. So yeah,
Right, there you go.
it was almost going to be Wisconsin for a split second. Wisconsin almost got to that game, and I was like, that would have been. Oh, I'm sorry. No, they almost got to the Vegas Bowl. That would have been very nice for me, even though I don't think a lot of Wisconsin guys were opting out. But of all this group of games, Dane, who stands out to you? Who are you keeping an eye on that's actually playing, or maybe even someone that might have opted out? But who are you keeping an eye on this day of games?
Looking at Minnesota, Tyler Nubin, I don't believe he's opted out yet, unless
Don't
you've
think
seen
so.
different.
I did not see different.
Okay, that would be the one. He did not make my first round mock, but if a safety does crack the first round, I think it's going to be Tyler Nubin. He's a guy that would have been drafted day 2 last year, came back for his super senior year, his 5th year at Minnesota. He's a well-balanced player. He can play the run. He can, play the post. He can make plays in coverage. Smooth athlete. He's aware. So he can drive off the numbers. He can overlap the seam. He can be a 4-down player. So I do think that there are some conservative tendencies in coverage, which is kind of surprising considering he has, I think, over the last 3 years, double-digit
Right?
interceptions.
Yeah.
Yeah, he makes a lot of plays on the ball. But I do think his skill set will be coveted because this is not a great safety class.
Yep.
He can be a core special teamer, but then play in a lot of different coverages, a lot of different schemes. So I think this is a player that's going to be on a lot of boards. Maybe not super high, but he'll be well represented throughout the league because of all the different things he can do.
The best word you used was balanced. That's it. He's a two-way player. He's fine at both, but pretty good at both, I would say, and that's what helps. And like you said, I think teams like that skill set where you do a lot of things well. I mean, every defense right now is kind of running these variations of safeties that have to do it all. So, like you said, his skill set will fit in anywhere. He's more or less scheme proof. That's kind of how I look at him. It's like, you drop if he goes to I'm just making up a team here. They don't really need one, but Brian Flores and the Vikings. It's like, okay, I could see a fit there because that would work. If he goes to a quarters-based defense, I think that's actually the best fit for him, but that works like a Fangio style,
right?
Playing top down and everything. I went to the Kansas game because it's the game after my own heart. And I went, I'm not sure if he declares, but Devin Neal, the running back, I'm going to keep an eye on. He has not declared yet, but I am. He has production. I think
You mentioned him a few times. Yeah, you like him.
He has production. He's good. I think he's firmly good. Like I have kind of 3rd, 4th round grade on him, give or take. He has size. Okay. I don't know. It's a weak running back class. It feels like this is an easy declare, but we'll see.
That 3rd, 4th round, that's going to be the sweet spot for running backs this year. We'll see if any of them get into the top 2 rounds, but and we'll see. We haven't. Travion Henderson, Ohio State, hasn't officially declared yet.
I saw that.
I think it'd be surprising if he doesn't, but waiting on him. Obviously, Donovan Edwards playing in the playoffs, so we won't get an official declaration from him until after those games are over. But we do know Braylon Allen's going to be in this draft. We do know Audric Estime from Notre Dame is going to be in this draft. Bucky Irving, Oregon, and Trey Benson just declared and opted out from Florida State. So yeah, all these guys are going to be in that 3rd, 4th round range, and it'll be interesting as the differing skill sets and how teams figure out, okay, where do we feel comfortable drafting this guy? And Neal will be part of that conversation, no doubt.
The guys you just mentioned, like every guy's totally different too. It's pretty funny, like how wildly different. Yeah, like even the guy that I was high on, Rocket Sanders from Arkansas, transferred as opposed to declaring, which I thought, I know he battled injuries this year. The other Kansas player was Dominic Pooney, the offensive lineman,
right?
Transferred from D2 Central Missouri, has played left tackle and left guard, has practiced at center. And I believe he is going to the Senior Bowl. So I think that's going to be a guy. Yeah, good solid player. He's got some accolades to him now. For offensive lineman, it's just game started in Big 10 or Big 12 and All-American. You don't have like some stat I can point at, but solid player. The fact that he has versatility, I think is going to be really interesting. And I think the Senior Bowl is going to be huge for him.
No doubt. And especially because he'll be playing multiple spots. Teams will
love that.
Yeah. And Jim Nagy's good about this. He makes sure that guys line up where teams want to see them. So that's why Graham Barton's going to be playing at center during the Senior Bowl, probably also at guard. But a guy like Pooney, we'll see him multiple spots and a chance to just show off that versatility. One other player I did want to mention too, in the 3rd game, Luke McCaffrey, wide receiver from Rice.
Yeah.
Obviously the bloodlines are there. He's really good through contact. Former quarterback, highly recruited quarterback, Nebraska, transfers to Rice. He had a big game, I believe it was against FAU, that got Rice bowl eligible. It was like 12 for 141 or something like that. So McCaffrey is, and he's going to the Shrine Bowl. So great opportunity for him in this game. And then in Frisco, where the Shrine Bowl is this year. So he's a draftable talent. And so eager to see what he does.
I've been aware of him for years, it seems like, because he was such a highly thought of QB recruit, and obviously whose dad and brothers are. Brothers. Brothers. We had one of them at with the Raiders. He was a kind of practice squad receiver.
Was that Dylan?
No, it's the other. Who went to Duke?
Yeah.
I think he's the oldest one.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's not Ed. Ed keeps coming to my mind, but it's not. It's not Ed.
No,
I know.
No.
I know, and I coached this guy. No, it's exactly what you. Is it Luke? No, Luke's the guy we just.
This is Luke.
This is Luke we just talked about. Oh my God, Max.
Yes, that's
Max McCaffrey. Yes. Max McCaffrey. That's probably.
So it's Max, Dylan, Christian, and now Luke. Okay, yeah.
Now Luke. Yes. But yeah, no, that's a great shout out. I've been very curious of how his transition to receiver has been, so I'm definitely going to keep an eye on him, and hopefully I can make it to the Shrine game. Still deciding. Still deciding between the Senior Bowl Shrine game. We're going to get a battle between my time there. But next we'll move on to the next day, 2 days after Christmas, December 27th. We have 4 games here. Virginia Tech at I keep doing at Tulane. Virginia Tech, Tulane, and Military Bowl.
This is the opt-out day. A lot.
This one was work. This one was work trying to find who the hell.
A lot of quarterbacks.
Yes. And we got a center drops not opting out for West Virginia. I was like that.
Well, he's injured. He's
injured, right?
He's got a broken leg. So yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure if it was ankle or broken. Okay. And then North Carolina, West Virginia, the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Sorry, no Drake May. Louisville, USC. no Caleb Williams in the Holiday Bowl, and then Texas A&M, Oklahoma State in the Texas Bowl. God, there's so many Texas Bowls. Who do we got here? Who's staying? Who's playing? Yeah, Zach Frazier isn't playing, but who'd you have
Yeah.
here? I was actually very curious. I have a lot of question marks in my notes in this section.
Well, there's a lot of good players that, if they were playing, would be on this day. But so no
Yes.
Michael Pratt from Tulane,
Nope.
no Devontae Walker, wide receiver North Carolina, no Cedric Gray, the linebacker from North Carolina. For Louisville, no Jamari Thrash, no Jordan, the running back, both running backs in that game. Marshawn Lloyd, who is a really underrated player, USC running back, he's not playing. And then for A&M, no Edgerrin Cooper, the linebacker, one of the first linebackers drafted this year, and no Anaya Smith, the wide receiver, who I believe just had finger surgery, so he's out in this one.
But other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Yeah, exactly. No kidding. I'm gonna go with an underrated player from Louisville,
Okay.
Quincy Riley.
Hey.
He's a corner who transferred from Middle Tennessee State. He has a lot of traits. He won the 100 meters, 200 meters in high school, coming out of South Carolina.
Okay.
He's a guy that has ball production. He's got the traits. It's a little inconsistent, a little up and down, but again, I think he has the traits that has the attention of scouts, and they would want to see him in this game. So I don't believe he's opted out of this game, but and we know USC, even though no Caleb, they've got some good players at receiver.
Always.
That will be playing. So that should be a matchup that could help a guy like Quincy Riley for Louisville.
Yeah, I was like Tez Walker, Drake May not playing. I was like, is Nesbitt doesn't look like he's not playing as well either. I couldn't find anything for sure on that. Yeah, Zach Frazier already mentioned that. Kalen Bullock, safety from USC. I think he's playing. He hasn't opted out yet, but that's where I defaulted to. Yeah, day 2 safety to me. That's where it kind of seems like the safety class is general. But yeah, more of a round 3 type. But that was kind of the best of the bunch from that game. Looking at that, also the USC does still have some very interesting younger players that are going to be really fun to keep an eye on. Like you just mentioned, they're always going to have talent. I thought I was going to be able to talk about Antoine Powell-Ryland from Virginia Tech, but he's returned to school.
Yeah.
But that's another guy, another edge player I'm going to keep an eye on for next year. He had some production. I actually watched him recently, and then he declared, and that was a lot of fun for me. Or did not declare, and that was a lot of fun. But yeah, there was this kind of day is kind of drab as far as the amount of prospects available. Unless you have any other guys that you could think of. I was kind of grasping at straws for this one.
For A&M, McKinley Jackson. I don't believe he's opted out yet. So he's a former big time recruit. Didn't really have the senior year I think many expected him to have, but he's an explosive nose tackle, and those guys are always going to find their way to the NFL. So yeah, McKinley Jackson might be a good player to look at against Oklahoma State.
Okay, now getting into kind of the day actually where there's more guys here that I thought going in that I'll find, but this is December 28th. This is Thursday. This is first game of the day would be SMU and Boston College in the Fenway Bowl, which is kind of fun for Boston College fans, I bet. Rutgers and Miami at the I gotta say a sponsor here, the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl in New York. God, we're just covering all the baseball stadiums. And then we got NC State, Kansas State, and the Pop-Tarts Bowl. Where's the Pop-Tarts Bowl now? Which one's that one?
This is the first year for it. So I don't know.
Is it? Okay, this was not
replaced the Cheez-It. I don't remember. I can't keep track of.
Okay, this one's in Orlando.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Oh, this used to be the Champs Bowl.
Okay.
I've been a member of this bowl. Okay. Had some good ones there. We played Miami in this one. All right. The next one is Arizona, Oklahoma. We had 2 ranked teams. We actually had a couple of ranked matchups here, but this is the Alamo Bowl, which is always going to be the Alamo Bowl. Yeah. Always some fun matchups usually in the Alamo Bowl. So hopefully this will be a good one. But Dane, these 4 games, who is standing out to you among prospects?
We'll start with Cooper Beebe, Kansas State guard, who I would have loved to actually see his reaction when he was asked if he was going to play in this game. I'm sure he just kind of chuckled. It's like, what do you guys think? Of course I'm
right. I know.
He's like, I'm a football player, so I'm going to play football.
My name's Cooper Beebe, and I go to Kansas State.
That's his mentality. That's just kind of who this guy is. But I mean, he's been around. This is his 5th year. 4th year starter. He started at left tackle. He started at right tackle. Now mainly a left guard. So he's just a rock solid player. Like I don't think he has a super high ceiling. He's not a very long player, but I really like his floor. He's not a guy that's gonna wow you with his recovery skills or just that length because he doesn't really play with it, but the disciplined eyes, the veteran awareness. He is stout. He plays with balance, power at contact. So I think both gap and zone schemes are going to be really interested in what he has to
Yeah.
offer, and just the experience that he brings. So, I mean, he is a team first guy through and through. I mean, he is Kansas State. That's his identity. I mean, one of the reasons he came back was to play with his little brother,
So
who
cool.
was, I believe, a freshman this year. And then I mean, he talked all about his goal was to leave Kansas State to be in a position to one day be in their Ring of Honor, and I think he's on track for that. I mean,
That's cool.
the impact he made with that program is really impressive. So, yeah, this is his swan song, kind of his chance to go out with see him go out with a win.
Yeah, he he reminds me body type wise. I'm gonna be curious what his length is, like you just mentioned it. Reminds me of Gabe Jackson. Speaking of former Raiders,
Okay.
wide body, got some power and pop when he's pulling.
Yeah.
Okay in zone, but can do it like way better than you would think he would
Right.
be for a wide body, kind of more thumper type. But yeah, I no, I that was kind of the guy that I keep coming back to, and I think it's just how he looks because he's built like SpongeBob SquarePants.
I say he's 330 and he's
Thick,
yeah,
he's
and he's not,
square.
he's 6'3". He's not six
Yeah,
four 6'5". I mean, wide body is definitely apt.
yeah, and it's funny with the measurements. Gabe Jackson was 6'3", 335. So it's
There
kind
you
of
go. Right.
yeah, very kind of what another former Raider, like I said. The
For
I kind of
BB,
oh yeah,
31 and a half inch arms is what I have, and that's
okay.
obviously,
Gabe was
I
longer than
mean,
that.
that might be that 31 and a half
That's
might be the shortest of all offensive linemen in this
I'm trying to
draft.
think.
I
Yeah,
mean, it's
that's like
so
Sam Baker.
gosh, Sam Baker.
He had like 30
Um,
inches.
yeah, I mean, Cedric Van Pran, I think he's
I'm
got really
trying
short arms too,
I'm
so
trying to
he'll
think of
be
some
kind
guards
of
with
in that
short arms,
range.
like
Um,
sub 32 though. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
there's not
interesting. He's
not a
so
ton.
strong though, and his feet are better
He
than you would
is.
think.
Yeah, and he
I
plays on time, and that really
yeah.
helps.
Yeah. He's very aware. I think you said that you're talking about his eyes. I think
Yeah,
that's the big thing, and he's so wide. It's kind of like
right.
if he's in the right spot, get around him.
Yeah.
I had kind of more no, BB was kind of 1A for this discussion. I've kind of some mid-level guys, and actually one guy I want to ask you about.
All right, hit me.
Well, first Miami, because I watched
Yeah.
too much Tyler Van Dyke this year. Xavier Restrepo has
Yeah.
not opted out or has not done anything. I believe he's a senior anyways, so he's going to the draft.
He could go back,
'Cause of the
but
COVID stuff, yeah.
yeah, it sounds like he's leaning to come out. That's the
Okay.
last I heard, but,
Yeah.
these things change daily,
I
so
really like him. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
he's yeah, I mean, not I'd say 4th round. I don't think he has overwhelming juice. I don't think he has much return ability. They didn't really give him a shot back there anyways, but
right.
this guy's a ball player. This
He
guy is
flashed
like
every
he's
game.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's reliable. He is a classic reliable slot player, and that has some physicality to him. Like, he has some decent size. He's not a buck 80. He's like almost 200. He's
mhm,
like 190 something. Yeah, I really liked him. Good hands, good route runner, decent speed, but I think he's just useful. Just one of those guys that yeah, I fell in love with him this year, and he had a ton of production. The other one I actually wanted to ask you about this is NC State linebacker Peyton Wilson.
yeah.
Maybe
Did
opting
he say
out.
he was playing?
It's maybe as of 5 days ago was the last article I read.
Okay.
So, yeah, I got to watch him. He's in this linebacker class. He's better than a lot of the other ones I've watched. And yeah, just an interesting name. And I hopefully he plays because he's got some flashes to him. You have any thoughts on Wilson?
He's so much fun. And
Yeah.
because he can do everything.
Mhm.
He can blitz, he can cover, he can play the run. He's so productive. I mean, I believe he cleaned up in the awards. I think he won the butt kiss top linebacker.
Yeah,
I mean, he's a 3-time team captain. Yeah, he's been around a while. The
yeah,
biggest thing for him is going to be the medicals.
that's
He
what I
has
thought.
had double-digit surgeries since uh, including high school and in college.
What
That
kind of injuries? Do you know off the top of your head?
we got it's like 3 shoulders.
Okay.
He had an ACL, I think it was senior year in high school.
Okay.
Then he re-injured that knee, which caused him to redshirt that first year. So I mean, it's one thing after another.
Yeah.
Every year there's something.
Luckily, the
But
NFL is not physical.
yeah, right, exactly. So that's going to be obviously going
Yeah,
to play a major part in all this.
'cause the tape is fantastic.
Yeah,
It's
I mean, he's a
yeah,
quick-footed athlete.
yeah.
He's got speed to him. I mean, he was over 23 miles per hour on field GPS this year.
Wow.
Love the range, and he's smart too. The way he can key,
Yeah,
mirror, make plays is really impressive.
he reads the
Um,
guard really well, and
yeah.
Dorn's still a good defensive coach, like, so he's probably taught really well there from at NC
Oh, and
State.
he raves about Wilson. I mean, he called him, I believe, it was like the most competitive guy he's ever coached.
That's saying something from Dorn.
Right,
Dorn is tough
exactly.
to he was our defensive coordinator at Wisconsin.
Right.
I was okay with him as the scout team quarterback my first year because I didn't mess up too much, but yeah, I've seen him coach. He's a tough coach.
Right, exactly. So, but yeah, this is a guy that has 4 down potential. I again, it just comes down to because he plays every game like it's or every play like
Every
it's
play.
his last. Like
Yeah,
every play, it's like, okay, this is the last play I might ever play, so I'm
yeah,
gonna give it everything I have, and that's a great thing.
yeah.
But that intensity backfires a little bit when with all these injuries. But yeah, as long as he hopefully gets a clean bill of health,
Yeah.
and if he does, yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he ends up because yeah,
Yeah.
4 down potential and can do. He's got a more impressive resume than a lot of linebackers in this class.
Yes. And it's I think, obviously if he does test, like he moves like he's gonna test well and he has
Yeah,
length and size and range. There's some
I believe he
plays
was a
that
freaks guy
he seems like a freaks
Bruce
guy.
Feldman's. Yeah, I believe he was at one point. I mean, he's been around for 6 years, so
Yeah, no, he's been forever. I
one
know.
one of those years, yeah, he made the freaks list.
He had
One
a
thing
play he
on.
recovered on a scrambler, and I was like,
Mhm,
"Holy crap!" Like,
yeah,
because he stopped, got square, and then you know how college is. There's a lot of quarterbacks that can run, and the guy tried to pump fake him and get around him, and you could tell that quarterback is used to doing it,
mhm,
and like Wilson just recovered, and I was like,
yeah.
"Holy crap, that's impressive." That's 6'4". So yeah, I'm glad we got to talk about him because I finally got to watch him, and yeah, he's a really fun player. But yeah, of course, medicals.
Yeah, and not surprising, he was also a big time lacrosse player in high school,
Okay, he's
and
from Maryland.
also, no, he's from North Carolina. I mean, he's North
Oh,
Carolina. He was
Hillsboro. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
officially, or he was first he was a Tar Heel commit, then he flipped NC State,
Okay.
but he also won state championship in wrestling in high school. So,
Okay.
uh, yeah, this guy's
That's
got
a
a
fun
lot,
mix, lacrosse and
right?
wrestling.
He's got a lot
That
going
you
on.
don't get
Yeah.
that two for that pairing a lot when you get these former
Right?
sports
And then
guys.
also a US Army All-American in high school. So yeah, no, it's Peyton Wilson's a really interesting prospect
Yeah.
for a lot of different reasons. One thing I wanted to add on Restrepo too is watching him, it just felt like a big play after big play. So I went and looked up how many explosive plays he has this
Yeah.
year. He's got 19. That's the same amount as Marvin Harrison Jr. The same
Wow.
amount as a lot of, or more than a lot of receivers in college. So
You
that's another thing that kind of
that
sets him apart.
I think is when you hear slot guy, okay, he's not the
Mm,
tallest guy, he's still thicker though, but okay, he's gonna be he's gonna be Josh Downs, shifty, he's gonna be
right.
Hunter Renfro and everything. Xavier Restrepo was back shouldering guys. Like so
Yeah.
like he was catching stuff down the field. So that's a great stat because that matches up with kind of how he played. I had
Right.
one other player I wanted to ask you about, Boston College's Christian Mahogany, which is
Yeah.
it's just a classic Boston. It's what you picture, you close your eyes and say Boston College guard. It's like,
Right.
got it. Got it. Okay. And his name's Mahogany, which I think is even better. But do you have any notes on Mahogany? Because I've started to watch some of these kind of day 2, day 3 offensive linemen. He was one that hasn't opted out. Looks like he's playing. And I finally found a guy.
Yeah, and I mean, his measurables, he's 6'3", 330, almost 34-inch arms. So,
Yeah.
another Gabe Jackson type in terms of just looking at him.
Dave
Um,
Jackson, player of the day.
yeah, there you go. Didn't expect that, but it makes sense.
It does.
Heavy physical hands. I mean, he is a guy that wants to be the bouncer at the club. I mean, he wants to bash heads, be forceful in his play. I think he has the play strength of an NFL starter. It's just he doesn't play with enough control, and especially in space where he's going to like, I think NFL athletes are going to out athlete him.
He's
So
a
in
kill
any type
shot
of
guy. Kind of
what's
like
that?
he's a kill shot guy, like really gets
Yeah, I mean, he
head
wants
over
to
feet.
brawl. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
wants to brawl with you. I think it was the Florida State tape. If you haven't watched that tape, watch that tape. I think it's a
I have
good
not.
summation of what he is. Like
Okay.
he will make some plays where he just demolishes guys
He
and
latches on, it's over. It's over,
yes,
over.
he
Yeah,
can, he
yeah,
can clear run lanes no
yeah.
problem, and he can sit down versus power. He does have balance through contact, which you like to see. You like to see the displacement, but again, when any type of space, that's where his angles aren't on point. He'll lunge, he'll whiff, and pass pro.
Yes.
His footwork gets a little narrow, so I think that he needs to be in the right scheme, protected a
Yep.
little bit. But yeah, he has the makings of an NFL starter
Yeah.
if again he's just protected a little bit more than what you ideally want.
My note on him was some teams are gonna love him, or like some O-line coaches are, but then some aren't.
Yeah,
Like, because of exactly what you're saying. Like, some are gonna go, "Oh, yeah, I can work with that." Length,
sure.
especially. I didn't know his arm length, but that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, strength is a great one. I'm glad you brought up the Gabe Jackson comparison again.
That's another shrine guy. So
Yeah.
that's one where teams will be interested to see one on one, see how he does
Yeah.
in the shrine ball
How he
practices. Yeah,
mirrors and, yeah, moves those feet and,
right.
yeah, does get head over feet. That's a common
Mhm.
thing. Some of these guys are so strong, and they're used to just, like, mauling guys that as soon as they go, "Oh my god, that guy's strong and he's fast, that defender, and he just makes me whiff." No, that's not
Yeah,
fun.
yeah. And he's a
And
good athlete too. He's not a controlled athlete. Like he
control
has
no, no,
quickness to him. It's just
it's
he needs to be more controlled with his
like Trey
movements.
Smith a little bit, maybe, coming out of Tennessee.
Sure, not
Kinda
quite
like
as big, but yeah, just
yeah, but
yeah,
kinda like goes for those kill shots, once in a while
right.
will miss and just, like, falls over, but it's not
Breaks
because he's a
down,
bad
right? Yeah.
yeah, not because he's a bad athlete, yeah.
Mhm.
Moving on to the next day, with December 29th, we have Clemson and Kentucky in the Gator Bowl. The which will never change, that name will never change either.
Yeah.
Oregon State, Notre Dame, and the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl. That name will ever change, never change.
Yep.
Everyone raves about the Sun Bowl too. Everyone that plays in it says that's one of their like one of the best bowls, how it's run, the fun
Hmm,
things you can do. Yeah. So
interesting.
shout out to El Paso.
Yeah.
But Memphis, Iowa State in the Liberty Bowl, and Missouri and Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl Classic. All right. This could have been if this was 10 years ago, this would have been, yeah, loaded. No opt-outs, no transfers, nothing. But
It's
who from this
still pretty good, I
still some
think.
good ones, of course, but
Yeah.
yes. But who from the slate of games stands out to you, Dane?
Clemson, Kentucky. Let's just start with that one. I'm
Yeah.
looking at the running backs because I think both these starting running backs are playing. Will Shipley for Clemson.
Yep.
He has not officially
I did not say
declared, but
anything. No.
scouts expect him to declare. Not a home run hitter, but I mean he's well balanced in terms of athleticism, physicality. I think the best thing about him is what he brings on passing downs. He's a dynamic
Absolutely.
screen target, and in pass pro. He's a blocker that can remove rushers from their feet.
I like him better
So
on tape than I do watching him on TV copy.
that makes
Like,
sense. Yeah, sure.
yeah, like him better. He grew on me on all 22, but sorry to cut you off.
Another
Yeah, that
guy
one guy.
who big time lacrosse player in high school. So Will Shipley's a good player.
Yeah.
Just if not a great player, or not a great player, I should say, but he is a good player. And then for Kentucky, Ray Davis, who already declared for the draft and he'll be in the Shrine game, but he did say he would play in this game. He's got one of the best backstories in this draft class. Just amazing that he's gotten to the NFL's doorstep to this point. But he had just a really good senior year. That game against Florida might be the best running back tape in this cycle. What he did against Florida was remarkable. Quick, controlled feet. He has the vision so he can see a few plays ahead, a few moves
Yeah.
ahead on the chessboard, which you always like, and then he can help you out on passing downs too. So Ray Davis, I'm a big fan of. That'll be to me because a lot of Clemson, especially, hit with a lot of opt outs. With Jeremiah Trotter's out, Nate Wiggins is out. Quite a few for Clemson, but also for Kentucky. Andrew Phillips, a corner, I believe, is opted out. They've got a few other ones too, but to me, when that game, I'll be watching the running backs. That's something that to pay attention to.
That's a great call. I Kentucky's offense translates. Like we were watching
Right.
Chris Rodriguez last year. It's like, oh, this is watching the Rams offense. This is
Right.
great. Under center. Like we got all the zone runs. It was great. No, I had Shipley as well. And I'm glad you mentioned him because it was like I already said it, but he has grown on me. I went from liking him to not so much liking him to back to liking him. But just because everything you said, I think he's a 3-down type of player. I think he is a great, he could be a very, very good 2 for a team that maybe has a guy that's an early down guy that you want to spell and then using a passing downs. But he has a role that's easy to fill that is, well, he can easily fill in the NFL. Like a lot of teams could use a Will Shipley. Notre Dame, I think Blake Fisher's playing. I think.
Is he? Okay.
I
thought he
haven't seen. I've been trying to find something. I saw one that did not have him listed. They had Alt listed, of course, and several other Notre Dame players, but Fisher wasn't one of them. So that would, if he is playing, that'd be one, of course, because he's had such an up and down year. A guy I wanted to ask you about,
he did opt out. Yeah,
he did opt out. Okay, so never mind. Take that one away. But Shipley, of course, the guy I wanted to ask you, because I do not think he opted out, was TJ Tampa from Iowa State, the corner.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on TJ Tampa? Because I saw his name. He did not look like he was opting out. I'm just curious what are your notes that you have on Tampa, which I think is perfect. He should be in a cover 2 defense. Just
he should be.
It works great.
It does with the name, but I think that's where he kind of fits best. He can click, close, make plays. He
good eyes. Good.
Yes, because he recognizes route combinations and is not afraid to come off his guy to go make a play. I believe it was the Oklahoma State tape. He made a game clinching interception in the final minutes.
That's the game I watched. One of them.
There you go. I mean, Cincinnati, he had an interception, if I'm remembering correctly from tape. Cincinnati had one. Ohio, he had one. So he can make plays. Yeah, I'm a big TJ Tampa fan. Nice. He's a good player who I don't know if he's accepted a Senior Bowl or Shrine invite yet, but he definitely has both. I'd be shocked if he didn't. So he's a guy that I hope to see in one of those games. For Notre Dame, Oregon State, because you're right. Notre Dame is kind of decimated with no Sam Hartman, no Audric Estime, no Joe Alt. It'll look a lot different, but Javonte Jean-Baptiste, the defensive end. This is a big opportunity for him in his final game. Ohio State transfer. I liked him a lot at Ohio State.
I remember you talking about him.
Right. Yeah. He was just blocked in Columbus. And so he goes to Notre Dame. He starts for Notre Dame. Wasn't dominant this season, but he was a solid starter for the Irish. He makes plays versus the pass, versus the run. He plays hard. He's got enough upfield quickness where he's going to affect the quarterback, someone you have to at least be aware of. Then he has pursuit speed. So he can be a solid rotational player in the NFL. So that's definitely, even though the Irish, again, they're decimated by these opt-outs, someone who is playing and has a chance to make a name for himself in that one. So, and then Missouri, Ohio State, this might have one of my favorite matchups of the entire bowl season in this one. Denzel Burke from Ohio State, I believe, is playing. He has not officially declared or anything like that yet, but seeing him go up against Luther Burden, the sophomore wide receiver from Missouri, who not draft eligible. So,
I know, but
we'll be talking about him.
We're very aware
next year. Yeah. So anytime we see these guys match up is going to be big. I mean, Burke is obviously, we talked about him a ton this year, had that great freshman year. Last year as a sophomore, banged up, wasn't quite what we expected. This past year, a lot better. He can, read and drive on throws.
I've liked his tape a lot this year.
He can flip and play deep. I mean, he has. I mean, if he was a little bit bigger, I think a better run defender, we'd be talking about him more as a first round type of guy. But he could still be top 50. I mean, he has a lot of ingredients that you like at the position. So waiting on decision for him. But anytime we get to see Burke against Burden, that will be a fun one. In Missouri, they've got two corners with Rakestraw and Abrams Drain, who
they're a top 10 team. They have talent. It's crazy.
Yeah, they do. And Missouri, I don't think has the type of opt-outs that a lot of these teams have had. Darius Robinson, the defensive end, Foster, the left tackle. So a lot of NFL talent on that Missouri team. The corners I'm interested in seeing, because even though Ohio State, I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to play. I don't believe Buka's playing. A lot of Julian Fleming entered the transfer portal, but the Ohio State's so deep a receiver that Carnell Tate and some of these up and coming
next
receivers,
5-star. Come on,
exactly right. So to see them, how Rakestraw and Abrams Drayton, who I like, I don't, they're more. The feedback I get from NFL scouts is 3rd to 5th round on these two guys. Okay. So. I think this is another game where they can, improve upon that and help themselves. They're not big guys. I don't think either are 4-3 athletes, but they're just quality players. Rakestraw is really physical, especially in the first 10 yards. Abrams Drain just has a knack for timing up the catch point, being disruptive. A lot of ball production on his resume. So this Ohio State Missouri game is going to be a little different when you see this Ohio State team, especially. But Missouri's got a lot of guys that are the reason they were a top 10 team this year. A lot of those guys are still playing, so this should be an interesting one.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know the Ohio State kind of opt-out stuff I was trying to sift through, and it's like
Yeah.
whoever's playing, of course, I'm going to be interested in Ohio State. We've talked about their lines a bunch, especially their defensive line. So whoever plays, I'll be interested in Ohio State. So no, I
Ohio
love
State's
that matchup.
they've been pretty quiet with
I know.
the quarterback carousel. I mean, Kyle McCord going to Syracuse, I think, kind of sums up what
What
we've been
his
saying
level
all
is.
year on Kyle
Yeah,
McCord.
yeah.
Like, and that's not throwing
No,
shade at
no,
Syracuse. It's just there's a reason a lot of these other teams, big time teams, weren't going after Kyle McCord.
right.
But what's their answer going to be next year? Is it going to be? I mean, Devin Brown, who wears 33 for a quarterback. First thing you notice about him, looks like James Laurinaitis playing quarterback for Ohio State. It's really off. It's really strange. But what does he look like in the bowl game? And this will kind of be his first audition to be the full-time starter next year, because Ohio State, unless they pull a rabbit out of their hat with
Yeah,
one of these,
somebody.
yeah, I mean USC's and their highly recruited quarterback just went in the transfer portal. There's always late movement. I mean, Justin Fields was a late movement type of guy when he
Yeah.
transferred to Ohio State. So we'll see what Ryan Day has up his sleeve, if anything.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Yeah, it's like it feels like it's school that had an answer at quarterback for years. It's been so
Oh yeah,
loaded there. It's just so weird to talk about it. Especially imagine being a receiver there being like, "Hey, why not? Why not? Why now? Like, what? I want to play with Fields and Stroud."
right. I know. I mean, I don't. They always figure it out, and so I'm
Yeah,
not. I'm
it's
not
Ohio State.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I
so
mean, even when they had JT Barrett and
yeah,
guys like that, they were still cranking out these receivers. So yeah,
yes.
they'll be just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on to the next date, and I believe the last day of this bunch that we are talking about, and that is December 30th. That is Saturday. That is there should be some NFL games on that day as well. But
I think
we
so. Yeah.
have Ole Miss, Penn State, in the Peach Bowl, Auburn,
Mhm.
Maryland, and the Music City Bowl, Georgia, Florida State in the Orange Bowl, and Toledo, Wyoming in the Arizona Bowl, which actually might have my favorite prospect of all this. But we'll start
I don't think
off.
he's playing.
I don't think he is.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there is zero chance that guy is playing in this
Right.
game. He played in that MAC championship game, and he's like, good.
Yeah.
I got
He
13
doesn't.
games of tape.
He doesn't need to play on the CW network.
He
He's
does
good.
not
Yeah.
against Wyoming. I'm sorry. He does not have to play in the Barstool Sports Bowl.
Yeah.
So yeah, apparently Fashanu is not opting out yet. I did not see it at least.
He's not
He's
playing. He's
yeah.
not playing. Here,
I was gonna
spoiler alert: Olu Fashanu is not going to play.
okay, thank you.
He's
What
not.
are we
Yeah.
doing here?
I bet you,
You don't know.
people tune into the game. He'll be on the sideline in sweats,
Yeah,
rooting on his teammates. But
chewing
no,
seeds.
people will at me if I'm wrong. But Fashanu will not play when they suit up for that bowl game.
I like. Okay, so of the guys that are playing, who are you excited about? I think there's one I think you're going to lean towards, but I'm curious what your answer is here.
Well, man, let's stick with that Penn State Ole Miss matchup. The tight ends Theo Johnson and Tyler Warren. I believe both are going to play in this one.
Okay, I
Interested.
saw mix on Theo, so I wasn't sure. I was like, I'm trying to figure out
I'm
the amount.
pretty confident. I believe in his announcement that he was going pro. He
Okay,
said, "I'm going to suit up one more time." I'm almost
sweet.
positive. Same thing with Curtis Jacobs, the linebacker on the other side. I believe Johnny Dixon's opting out, and I hadn't heard anything on King. But still, this is a Penn State squad that's still got a lot of talent that will be
Yeah,
playing. No Chop Robinson, but
saw that.
still plenty of guys to watch. And for Ole Miss, it's interesting because a lot of their guys that I scouted this year are going back for
Yeah,
next year. Trey Harris, the receiver, Priestcorn, the tight end, Bentley at running back, I believe is a lean to go back. I don't think he's
okay.
announced yet. One guy that will be in this draft, Cedric Johnson, pass rusher. He's one to watch. He's really raw, but he's long and he's athletic. I mean, there's a lot to like about him as a developmental pass rusher. So that Ole Miss Penn State matchup definitely one we're tuning in for.
And Ole Miss is apparently just crushing it in the transfer portal. So if they're getting all these guys
Yeah,
back, and
right.
Yeah, I know. Ole Miss can be a very interesting team next year, and they're ranked 11th right now.
They always are interesting. Yeah,
Oh
whether or
my
not
God,
they ascend past
good or
interesting,
bad, they are
right? Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, isn't that such a? Have you been to a Ole Miss pro day? It's
No.
okay. Oxford's one of one. I'll say
I
that, but
believe it. Yeah.
it's when I'm talking about going back in time. That you go into downtown Oxford. I remember my first time going there to do. Oh man, Tunsil's pro day.
Okay.
Tunsil, and then who's the receiver the Vikings drafted in the first round? Uh,
Treadwell.
Treadwell, who had a
Yep.
terrible pro day.
Just,
And
I
I
had
like the other Ole Miss receiver better, Core. I liked
Cody
him.
Core.
Yeah,
Yeah.
who the Bengals drafted, I think. I liked him better than Treadwell.
Nate
And
It
I'm
was
like,
a 3rd or 4th round. Yeah.
yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't. It
And
wasn't early.
it wasn't early, but I watched that Treadwell and I watched because I had to throw some of his routes and during warmups, and I watched
Oh,
him do
okay.
it. I saw him do a stop route, and then they had the real quarterback throw. But then I watched him do a stop route. I was like, this guy's potentially going in the first. It's like he had no get off, no take. I'm sorry, I don't want to bash him for all these years later, but I remember that pro day
Well,
stands on my brain.
the way it played out in the NFL, I mean, you were absolutely right because he wasn't the athlete that
No, good
you
ball
needed to
skills.
be. Yeah,
Good ball
sure.
skills. I think that's why I was pretty good for receiver workouts because I'm not the best quarterback in the world, so you could really see a guy's ball skills with those
Right, right.
misplaced accuracy on some of those throws. Is Marius Mims playing? That's why
That's
I
yeah. So in that, and we haven't heard from
tackle
Jared
from Georgia
Verse,
for anybody. Yeah,
right? And we haven't heard from Jared Verse either, who
yeah.
is the
Oh,
ultimate team guy. But is he really going to play? I don't know. I mean, but it would be
yeah.
awesome if we get some Jared Verse versus Amarius
Be
Mims
perfect.
matchups. That'd be.
Be
Um,
worth it.
the last I heard, I mean, teams expect Amarius Mims to declare.
Yeah,
He's got single digit starts. He injured this year, but I mean, obviously he was a top 5 player for me in the entire country back in August. So the talent is absolutely there. It's just, is he going to play in this game? Will he declare? So Amarius Mims we're kind of waiting on.
yeah,
But yeah, Florida State in this one just hit hard by opt outs. No Trey Benson, no Johnny Wilson. I don't believe we've heard anything official on Keon Coleman, but I
we haven't.
can't imagine he's going to play. And then, yeah, we'll see about Jared Verse. Again, he's the ultimate team guy. Came back for his last year, but I don't know if he's going to suit up for this one. And then for Georgia, Brock Bowers, who again, another ultimate team guy, he was non-committal on the bowl game. He was kind of on the fence. So by the time this comes out and you're listening, Brock Bowers may have already made a decision. But as of right now, still on the fence. Carson Beck, quarterback, officially announced he's coming back for his senior
Yes.
year, and he will play in this game, which is what we expected.
Yep.
Which is good for Georgia. And
One to keep an eye on next year. All we did was
for
get better
sure.
this year.
I,
So
when my top 50, my updated top 50 came out in early November, he made the cut. I mean, he was
mhm.
one that has a NFL starting skill set. So, I don't know if he has maybe the elite physical traits that's going to ascend him into a top 5 pick, number 1 overall contender, but he at least has the baseline for what you're looking for as
Yeah.
an NFL starter, and that's going to get you drafted high. So definitely one to, I mean, in Georgia, obviously they always find the skill guys. No Brock Bowers next year, but they're always going to have the skill guys around them. So Carson Beck could have another big year next year, be a Heisman contender, be someone we're talking about in first round mocks.
Yeah, not no Lad McConkey either. That's yeah, that
Did he opt out?
I'm saying for Beck next year.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah,
next year. Yeah.
yeah. No all reliable there. But Beck, my kind of like one liner on him is he's a clean thrower. It's like
Mhm.
his mechanics are so repeatable, but he has some creativity to it. Yeah, he's a guy that just every time I watch him, I was like, hey, because I watched him September, I was like, oh boy. And then, then as the season went along, but getting it done, he understands where to go with the ball. He understands what he is, which I like too.
Sure.
As far as risk taking, he understands, like you just said, maybe not the high end traits, but he still can get away with enough. Yeah, I really like Beck. The next year's quarterback class got super interesting the last couple of weeks, so it's gonna be fascinating to keep an eye on. So
It
I
will.
think
It will.
I think that's it for this slate of bowl games, unless you have any
Well,
more, Dane?
we didn't talk about this before, but there are some games January 1st.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just seeing this on the schedule now. So we got Wisconsin, LSU, Iowa, Tennessee, Liberty, Oregon. No Jaden Daniels. I'm sure Malik Neighbors and
Sure, yeah.
Brian Thomas are going to opt out. So a lot of these are going to be just destroyed by opt-outs, but I believe Bo Nix is going to play.
Okay.
So it's just kind of maybe his swan. And I'm sure once he saw Liberty on the schedule too, he's like, all right, sure. Why not? Kind of his
Get those
final
stats
game.
up.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Go out. And I mean, he already has so many records because he's been a 5th-year player, but just keep, put him out
Cement
of
it.
reach.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bo Nix, maybe, just because he's a guy that I struggle with as a prospect.
Dude, I have no idea how to put him.
Yeah, I think he can be. I mean, I've never been on the first round train that some people are with Bo Nix, and I've never received that type of feedback from scouts that he's a first round player. But some believe he can be an NFL starter. And so second round, third round, we'll have to see on Bo Nix, but he's definitely an interesting one.
Yeah, I've come around on him a little bit, but I'm with you. I don't see him as a first rounder. When he has to push the ball and some of the progression stuff is just not there for me. And we've talked about several times, that offense was tailor made perfectly for him as far as this perfectly.
Credit to the coaching staff.
Yeah,
They
that's what you
knew
do.
exactly what they were doing.
Yep.
And
Get him to move a little bit, let him fire some seam balls, like throw a bunch of screens. Like, yeah, it was perfect for him. So I struggled
his
with
ADOT this year was like under 7. It was so low. Average depth of target with on his throws, just and that's, he had a few, especially as he's a really good post thrower, but it's just a lot of dink and dunk, short, quick throws to set up the deep stuff. And I don't know, I'm just not a big fan.
I've used this on another quarterback a few years ago, but I think it's the same with Nix. It's like, I like Nix until he has to hitch in the pocket. And then I'm like, because you don't know where that ball is going to go, or you don't know where his eyes are going to go. So
both Washington games, you saw that, when they were able to heat up the pocket and really make him think twice. And
they messed with the coverages. That was another thing I should have talked about when we were talking about that game. It was just, they messed with him post snap a lot. And it's like, I mean, that's what everyone in the NFL does. If he was a true junior, I'd be like, okay, the reps. Senior that's played some of the most games in FBS starter history, that's where the worries come. So not that negative,
he can still make plays because he is so athletic and he has the arm. So
size. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, like, just thinking about that Washington tape, there were a few plays where he has to scramble, get outside the pocket, and somehow makes a play for a touchdown in the end zone, to his tight end. But at the same time, you can't live like that consistently in the NFL. And
that went from the pocket.
Right. And, a guy like Justin Fields, we're seeing that with him, where he's like, that touchdown he had to Kmet against the Browns was when he rolled to his left and fired avoided Myles Garrett and then throw a seed on the move to his left. Fantastic. But his inability to consistently win from the pocket and hit those throws on time, it's his undoing, and it's part of the reason they lost that game. So guys like that scare me.
Shoot, even what's going on with the Eagles right now, everything just feels so out of whack because they're not Hurts is not comfortable from the pocket right now. So it's one and done, true one and done, not even trying to get to 2 and then bail. And that leads to just inconsistencies. You're going to get big plays, like especially if you have a Fields or a Hurts and some of those Eagles receivers. But yeah, there's always just that lack of sustainability is kind of the term I go back to. And that's why you kind of want to, hey, you got to be able to nickel and dime. You have to. That Fields, even just natural throwing motion limits him by default because you can't do quick game with him. So it's like, he brings some stuff to the table, but he takes other things off. So that was fun. I was like, oh yeah, well, this is gonna be a 20-minute show, and I do this every single week, and here we are at 50 minutes tapping out. Yep. But no, thank you everybody for joining us on Prospects to Pros. Enjoy the bowl season. Enjoy your holiday season. We will see you next time. We'll be talking about the college football playoff games, the Final Four. So we'll be talking about those, and see you guys next time.